And hello everyone and welcome to the Copyright 2.0 show. My name is Jonathan Bailey. I'm with the website Plagiarism Today, which can be found at plagiarismtoday.com. And joining me as usual, the man who, when he relaunches a site, it is truly an epic event. It's Patrick O'Keefe of the iFroggy Network, iFroggy.com. Patrick, I've been meaning to follow up with you. How is the personal blog relaunch going?
It's going good. No, I just wanted kind of a cleaner space to think and write, and it's definitely been that. I haven't written too much yet, but it hasn't been that long. So I was just working on a piece last night, actually. But yeah, it's fun. It's good to have a place, and I was actually gonna start cross-posting some of the pieces, actually from maybe both patrickokeefe.com and managingcommunities.com the next day onto Medium to see what if any impact I'll have over there, because I was listening to something that Gary Vaynerchuk was saying, and I was thinking about what he was saying, basically the idea of he's just in it right now to amplify his reach and connect with new people, and not so much to monetize a direct impression on his own site. So I was thinking, yeah, if I can get some traction on Medium on some of the longer pieces, or pieces I think might do well on that platform, then I'm willing to put it out there and experiment.
Now, for the idiots who don't know what Medium is, i.e. me,
most people.
Can you please
not most people are idiots. Most people probably don't know what Medium is, especially people listening to this podcast. It's just probably not the group that really, I don't know, would be turned on to it. I'm not sure who would, though, to be honest. But Medium is medium.com, and it is it's a publishing platform. People use it to write. People use it to blog, and you see a lot of stories that get passed around on Twitter and Facebook. Posted over at Medium, and for whatever reason, it just seems like a lot of stories over there are being amplified. I mean, you could think about it, anyone can sign up. You can think about it similar to other publishing platforms like Tumblr or Quora blogs, or LinkedIn's influencer publishing platform. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but LinkedIn has been allowing some people to write articles on LinkedIn.com as part of their influencer program. And so, there's part of me moving back to the personal blog is to get back to having a space that I control, and that's where I'm going to publish everything. But if I have a thought that I think would resonate particularly well on Medium, then I'm going to share it over there. So most of my posts probably I won't do that with, but some I'll post on my personal site, and then afterward, maybe the next day, I'll post onto Medium and see if they get any traction. And maybe they don't, but some people do this and are really successful with it. So it's maybe something to take a look at and see if it's a platform that might be interesting to you. If you care about reaching more people, give it a look.
I always care about reaching more people.
Yeah.
Everyone does. I haven't met a person yet who's like, no, I don't want to reach more people. Screw that. I got too many people.
Well, I mean, some people don't want to pay the cost.
I take that back. I do know someone, Jason Calacanis, but that's not the point. He's not probably a good metric for this.
Yeah, I don't know if he's on Medium. He might not be. I think he is on a LinkedIn influencer program. I want to say he might be. But let's see. Calacanis, I'm familiar with Jason. Yeah, I don't know if he's on Medium or not. But what was I going to say? There's a cost to reaching more people in this context. Reasons that you might not want to cross-post. There's pros and cons to everything, right? Because you post on someone else's platform, you can't monetize it directly. If you want to have ads on the page, for example, I don't think you can do that. I'm in fact certain you can't. If you want, and of course it competes with you in search engines, cross-posting things, and that can lead to other issues. More than a few people are doing it and doing it successfully, and if you don't necessarily care about those other issues and you have that established authority, domain, or whatever it is that you've been publishing on, then it depends. It really depends on your goals. But for me, I definitely want to experiment and try it and see if I can reach more people than just on my personal blog.
Any way to disable search indexing of your Medium account?
I doubt there is.
But that'd be interesting.
I wouldn't turn it on I wouldn't offer it as a feature probably if I were them. It's sort of one-sided in value.
True. Still interesting.
I mean, I guess you can do that with your personal blog. I don't know if Medium wants to replace your personal blog, to be honest. I think Medium is more of a, I don't know. It's how to look at it. Quality writing, a home for quality writing. I don't know. I mean, everyone.
Post.
Well, yeah, it's not true. Everyone can sign up, but it seems like a lot of things that are written on Medium are of a at least a moderate quality. I don't know though. To me, it's just another platform. So who knows? Who knows? But give it a look, see if it helps you.
You might love. We'll follow up. We will not be meeting the next week. We'll not be talking next week. So maybe in a couple weeks, if you start the experiment, we'll talk about it then.
Yeah, we'll see if I write something that I think is particularly meaningful.
Okay, that sounds exciting. Well, the only news I have. Well, do you have any other news I should ask?
No, I don't think so.
The only news or other topic I have is that tomorrow I get on a plane and go a long, long way to Budapest, Hungary, where I will be participating and speaking at the European Medical Writers Association conference there. The conference is actually from the 13th through the 17th, I believe. So I'm getting there a few days early, mostly to get adjusted, spend some time in the city, and it worked better with Crystal's time off to do it early. And I'll be coming back after the conference is over. So I am excited about going. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this trip a lot. Been looking forward to it for a while, and I am completely unprepared. Is how it feels. I've already given the talk before, so I'm not worried about that. The talk is fine. Talk's in the can, pretty much. But yeah, I mean, like researching what I want to do while I'm there, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm not very good at that. I've not done that this time, so I'm going to be winging a lot of it. But that's okay.
It's okay, as long as you're not winging the business end of the deal.
No. The business end's locked down, good, solid. I've got everything set up. The only thing that's a little bit unusual is this talk I'm giving was a panel presentation, and now it's being sort of redigested into a solo presentation.
Okay.
But
just
I mean, I was involved in the writing of the entire thing the first time around, so I know what to say.
So what are you talking about?
Plagiarism in medical writing.
Okay.
So it'll be about it's entitled "The Rise of Plagiarism in Medical Writing." It's all about the statistics and how things are growing in the field and what can be done about it.
Is it an English-speaking conference?
Yes, it is an English-speaking conference. Thank you, God.
Any translators? No.
Not that I know of. I do not know that.
Okay.
I know it's a busy room with a lot of people signed up, which has me nervous and excited at the same time.
Is it a single-track event?
No, it's a multi-track event.
Okay.
But they told me I'm going to have a couple hundred people there, so I better do good.
Yeah, I mean, you've spoken to large crowds like that. I remember Converge South, 2008. I was there in the crowd.
Oh, God, yeah.
Standing room only.
Oh, God, Patrick is yanking my chain a little on this one. That was a 3-person event, if I recall the head count correctly. One of them completely hungover. It was you, some other dude who wanted to be there, and some guy that stumbled in about halfway through.
Yeah.
So,
it
was interesting because my talk was up against the keynote.
Right.
Which was weird. Usually keynotes are single track.
Right.
But it was that. I think that was the Converge stuff that got really squished. They had to take a 2-day event and make it 1 day up really abruptly.
Yeah, that's correct.
So yeah, it meant sacrifices had to be made. Like 3 people showing up to my talk was one of the sacrifices.
Right. Yeah, it happened. If
I
recall correctly,
barely
it might have been Robert Scoble.
It was Scoble, I remember.
With the keynote and. Yeah, I chose your session for some reason.
Yeah, that wasn't very
I think it might have been because I went to the dinner the night before that you were hosting. So that's damn sense of loyalty I have.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, the dinners were pretty cool. And I really did enjoy those. I had a great time at Converge South. I'd love to go again sometime. I don't know if the conference is still going on. Is it?
It is. Yeah, it is still going on. It was last held in October, and so that was it's different. Different people. Different people are doing it now. Sue Polinsky, I don't think leads it anymore. She's part of the team. A lady that I met there, Kristen Dawkins, I think is how you pronounce her name. She, I don't know if she was there the year that you went, but she was there the year that I went. I think it was 2010, 2 years later. Yeah, I think she leads it now, and some of the same people, some different people, but yeah, it's still going on.
Okay, cool. That's great.
ConvergeSouth.com.
I'll check it out. I mean, I honestly hadn't thought about it. I mean, they had some. I know they had some drama in 2009, right after, and then it kind of slipped off my radar.
Yeah, they didn't. They weren't able to host it in 2009. I don't think.
I don't remember what happened, but yeah, something happened in 2009. It slipped off my radar. I'm glad it's still going. Maybe I'll speak with them about speaking or attending or something. But the problem is with it being in October, that's when I run the haunted house. That raises some problems.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been. I don't think. I think I spoke in 2010, and I haven't been back since.
Which for you is interesting because you're like next door. You can almost walk there.
That's not true. I'm 6 hours away.
Okay, it's a long walk, but you could do.
Or 5.5. Yeah, that's not true. Yeah, I mean, so that's like more than 10 hours driving, and that's just not.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, I'm mostly sticking to engagements where there's hopefully getting paid. Let me double check what I said. Google says it's 4.5 hours, so I don't know. But that might be true.
Well, coincidentally, 4.5 is the exact hours from where I am right now to my in-laws in the upstate. So yeah, it's a long drive.
It's a tough drive to make for a day or two.
Especially if you only have one person.
Yeah.
If you have two people, it's not nearly as bad.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind it, but it's you got risk reward or what's the reason, what the value is. But for South, I mean, I like people out there, so it's nice to spend when I went.
I enjoyed it. It was a good conference, and maybe, like I said, maybe next year or this year or some other time. But yeah. So anything else going on for you?
No, just staying busy, working. Not much to say.
Oh well, we've exited the month of doing.
Yeah, we have.
Is the pace still good?
I mean, no, it was successful with what I wanted it to be. I cleared a lot of things and kind of making some other decisions about some other projects I'm involved in, and then yeah, I'm kind of getting closer to being all cleared away. I have a few things left to check off, and then I'll be able to do some different things that I haven't done before.
Any hints you care to drop? Any?
Not really. I'm not all that settled myself.
Oh well.
It's really nothing I can talk about on air.
Oh well, worth a shot anyway. Worth a shot. Trying to club some information out of Patrick. It's very difficult to do, actually. He's like this when he's off camera too.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was thinking about that. You know those stupid like bar tricks people try to do.
Yeah.
Like I can drink this before you drink this. You know, those sorts of silly, ridiculous tricks. There's always some sort of other element to it, like I put my glass over your glass or whatever it is. And I was thinking about it recently because I saw that on TV. I think, you know what? I've had people try to do this stuff to me, and I'm no fun. Because I always say no. I'm not curious. I don't care. No. I don't want to play the game. I'm not interested in losing this bet or whatever it is. I just say no. And people actually get frustrated with that sometimes because it's like, if I'm not sure, if I don't know what's going on, the answer is no.
And it's probably the best way to be, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the way I am.
It's just fun, It's gotten you this far.
Yeah, I like to know what's going on, and if I don't, then I don't like to make the choice.
Understood. Psychiatrists everywhere would be proud of your decision-making.
Okay.
No, seriously, psychiatrists always talk about it's think, feel, do when it comes to making a decision. That's the decision-making process. Think means get the facts, think about them. Feel is decide how you feel, and then take action.
Mm-hmm.
Making the decision should be the absolute last step, which is the way you do it. The problem is some people just do and don't think or feel, or think then do, then, you know what I mean? They screw it up.
Yeah. Yeah, or there's always the element of peer pressure to it, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember, just the way I was at a friend's wedding, and they were passing around a bottle of something that they were all drinking, and like it's not like my friend, it's like 30 people, all strangers, right? So they passed it to me, and I just passed it right on by, because I don't want that. I've got to get on a plane in the morning to get to a Jay-Z concert, which is what I was doing. I don't want to catch something from someone. I need to be healthy. And so and someone didn't like that, and my friend said, "Oh no, that's fine." But it's like it's funny. I just don't cage to that stuff. Everyone takes a drink. I pass it by. I'm like the one that always says, "Nope, no, thank you."
Yeah, you see, tell you the opposite story that happened to me. I was at one of the Mardi Gras parties earlier this year. They were passing around a bowl of cherries. and everyone was taking one. And they had like food everywhere at this party, so I didn't think twice about it.
Right.
Like, oh, cherry. I'm not a big fan of cherries, but what the hell, I'll take it. Was not adequately warned. They were cherries soaked in moonshine.
Okay.
So not only it didn't like get me like schnockers, I only had one or two, but tasted absolutely god awful.
Oh, okay.
I can drink alcohol, but dear Lord, you know.
Be wary the free gift. What is there's a saying somewhere about something about don't look a gift horse in the mouth, but then there's something about accepting gifts. I forget what it is.
There's plenty of.
You gotta be careful.
Basically,
it's a trick.
Basically, Patrick had the right idea. I had the wrong one. There you go. That simple. And I learned a very valuable lesson about some of my friends that day and what they like to eat. But anyways, you ready to get on some copyright news? We got a lot to go over this week, as usual.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, jumping on in this week, we're talking about Australia and impending legislation there that may be part of a copyright crackdown impending. Now, long story short, we've talked a few times off and on about this, but it looks like Australia doesn't look like. Australia has been in the midst of sort of a copyright reevaluation. They've been seriously looking at their copyright law, getting public comment on it, and are generally trying to decide what changes they want to make, sort of modernize their copyright law. Well, the federal cabinet is reportedly considering two proposals. One is basically what we would think of as 3 strikes or graduated response, where ISPs would be forced to send warnings to users who engage in copyright infringing behavior. And the other is what we see in different countries, which is where they are requiring ISPs to block access to infringing websites. Neither of these were really part of the public commentary debate, public commentary and discussion to date. But it seems like the government there is saying pretty unequivocally that ISPs are going to have to take some responsibility moving forward, in whatever format it takes. They are going to try to get ISPs more involved in the copyright enforcement process.
Yeah. Let's see. I did read this article, so I can't feign ignorance, but I was interested to learn.
You can feign ignorance all you want.
I don't know if I knew this or not. It says Australians are among the biggest pirates per capita, which is interesting, I guess. Biggest pirates volume, money, number of people.
I think it means the percentage of people who engage in piracy, maybe not volume. I don't know.
Percentage of people, yeah. I was just kind of interesting. I tend to like the idea. Or at least be open to the idea of blocking sites with enough due process, because that's kind of the only, I don't know, there's always some sort of VPN workaround or something, but as far as the majority of people who use the internet, it's probably the only surefire way of blocking them from those sites. Of course, you always introduce the issues of just basic general freedom and the choice to, if I want to do something that is illicit, those sorts of issues. So it's interesting. I think there is an interesting issue when you talk about American companies, and this is mentioned in the article because, what does the average Australian care about an American company? Obviously, many American companies, and those mentioned in this article, are quite large and might have operations in Australia, but still, when you take a look at like a Disney, obviously their investment in America is much more substantial than their investment in Australia. Yeah. So I think for me, when you talk about lobbying and you talk about these lawsuits without INET, the biggest thing the copyright world can do is get the Australian companies to care. And be at the forefront of this. It's probably not good for these efforts as far as American companies are concerned or companies non-Australian are concerned if you have a name like Disney at the top of it. Everyone knows Disney certainly, but I don't associate Disney with Australia, and I never will, and probably that's true for Australians. There needs to be those big champions in the country, and I think, I don't know, to me that seems like it would help with these sorts of matters.
It would. I think you're right. And that is one of the issues kind of at stake is, you have to kind of wonder, why is America the world leader when it comes to making movies and the record industry and so forth? Why is it American companies that dominate? Well, one of the reasons is intellectual property protection. It's always been one of the issues. It's not necessarily the most important one. It's not necessarily the only. It's certainly not the only issue, but it's an issue that has to be considered and weighed in.
And of course, nothing is insulated. Nothing is in a vacuum. When a Disney movie is released in Australia, maybe a lot of that money does go back to America, but there's also the money that goes to the theater owner, to the local organization that brought the movie to the country, to the PR and marketing that exists in Australia, if one does exist to promote the movies, which is often the case, I'm sure, to whatever efforts are made to promote the movie in the country. So a percentage of that dollar does go to Australian companies. And of course, if you don't want to support American companies, just buy movies, pay for movies that were made in Australia.
And there are definitely locally grown movie companies. I've seen Australian and New Zealand films,
Right, yeah.
So it's not like there are no Australian movie companies.
Yeah, I did get this isn't a new joke or anything, but when you go to the Sunday Morning Herald, this link, there's the favicon image, which is the image, for those who don't know, that's kind of the bookmark image, right? It's at the top. It's next to the name of the site or the name of the article you're on, and it says SMH, which
my head, yeah.
We know. And I'm not sure. I guess, is that an international thing, or is that, I don't know. I think it's fairly international, but SMH being shaking my head,
I've got to be honest, I just learned that one like a couple of months ago.
Okay.
Someone used it in a text conversation with me, and I'm like, the hell, was that an autocorrect?
What about the Sydney Morning Herald?
Yeah, what is it about the Sydney Morning Herald?
I didn't know you subscribed to Australian newspapers.
Wow, you're a very interesting person. I've completely changed my views of you. No, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does say shaking my head. So, yeah. Good point. It's always interesting to see, how acronyms, like, you have to feel really bad for any business that had the acronym WTF before before the internet became a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't allow that on my forums, WTF, because F stands for
we know what it stands
F, and so, but
F stands for F.
But I can't, censor block it, because we've got the World Taekwondo Federation, which is a very popular Taekwondo organization.
Okay, good one.
And it's popular. It's almost always, abbreviated to WTF, because that's the abbreviation. So you'll see, and if you type WTF into Google, it's, for me, the 6th link, World Taekwondo Federation. It stands out above Reddit's WTF and the WTF podcast with Mark Maron and the Daily WTF. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Of course, there's always LOL. I don't know any organizations that have LOL though.
League of Legends, but they were after
League of Legends, so okay.
They chose it afterward. That was their own stupid...
Yeah, they made a conscious choice.
Yeah, the World Taekwondo Foundation, that's the only thing I can find. I'm kind of scrolling through some results, and it's the only thing I see with the actual abbreviation, WTF. Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I can apparently buy WTF at eBay, according to this ad.
So I can block that on PhotoshopForums.com, but I cannot block it on KarateForums.com.
Yeah, I see the problem.
It's simply not practical.
I see the problem. That's interesting.
Local rules.
Yep, that's why you got them. So yeah, you got to feel bad for these companies and also people too.
Yeah.
I just hope I hope nothing comes up with the initials JEB.
Yeah. I mean, not to beat this drum because it's a constant issue, but it's mentioned in this story. The media analyst at Citi says that he doesn't feel like it's some ingrained convict desire to steal, but it's more demand driven. So.
And Australia does have some. Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
Australia does have some unique demand issues. Their prices on copyrighted content are significantly higher, and it's never been adequately explained.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to go into, is the idea that it's the same. It should be the #1 priority for combating piracy in any developed country, especially, is for it to be made available. For it to be made available in a way that makes sense for that region, meaning that different services are available in different areas. So we've got to license that content to those services, and also it's got to be made available at a price point that makes sense. So if I doubt things are high because things are high. Right, it's just the way it is. If the industry can get away with charging a certain amount, okay, then you do the cost-benefit analysis of lowering the price and converting some pirates versus having a higher price and getting the people who already pay that. There's definitely a benefits analysis to go there where you kind of make a choice and say we make more money like this. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to actually combating piracy. Certainly lowering prices will usually reduce piracy. Maybe not by some massive percentage point, but certainly there are people out there who pirate because of cost. It's a real thing, you know, and you got to do that analysis. But again, those 3 points: availability, local rules, I guess I would throw out there with the services, and then pricing. And the sooner we can make Netflix available everywhere, the sooner we can get everyone on it outside of the VPN users who circumvent the protections.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I think this is something I think it might be true. I have not seen a study on this, but I believe Netflix probably reduces piracy of even content that isn't on Netflix.
Okay. Yeah, because that's well, that's kind of the old thing, or something I say, which is that I have no competitors, but yet everyone is my competitor if you're competing for time. So if someone's watching something on Netflix, they can't be pirating.
Exactly.
Right now, they're watching something on Netflix.
They're not downloading Game of Thrones. They're not torrenting Game of Thrones right now.
Yeah, I mean, they could be downloading it behind, right, in the background, but they can't watch it. They can't watch pirated content while they're watching. They have
so much time in the day, and the more time that's filled with legitimate content, the less pirating they're doing.
Precisely. That's well stated.
If it's your content or someone else's.
When you increase the amount of time that people spend consuming content legitimately, the inverse will be true. So I think Einstein said that.
Yeah, I mean, basically, time is the only finite resource here.
Right.
And
you know, speaking of that, I saw a Netflix availability map recently, and I don't know if it was legit or not. It was on a Twitter account. It was like Great Maps, and it showed it was North America. Gosh, why?
I've got one.
Geography is not my.
Okay, I've got a Netflix map up. I'll try it for you. Okay.
Yeah.
It's North America, South America.
Yeah, I got that.
And much of the Caribbean, other than Cuba.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's the Scandinavian countries: Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Great Britain and Ireland, UK and Ireland. And I think there's one. I can't. This map.
My map. Okay, so let me get up something else here. I need to get up an actual map to compare.
And also Denmark and the Netherlands too. I was trying to see tiny ass countries there.
Okay, so mine shows U.S., Canada, Greenland. That's what I thought it was up there. Mine shows Greenland, and like you said, South America, and then you got it: Ireland, UK, Norway, Sweden, Finland. And are those parts of Sweden, or are those tiny other countries? I'm trying to figure out what
Denmark is. Right there. The little thing the dragon's mouth is closing on.
The dragon's mouth is closing. Okay, Denmark.
Is like a dragon's head.
Got it. Okay, Denmark. Yeah. Okay, that's what that is. Yeah. So basically, you've got this whole other part, including Australia, which is a big one, I think. Really. Yeah. Australia is a big one because you have Russia, which is so tightly controlled. You have China, which is so tightly controlled, and you can understand that to a certain extent. But then you get. And Africa, certainly there's a lot of technology challenges in Africa, but Australia, I mean, that's kind of, and New Zealand. Yeah, Australia and New Zealand. New Zealand's so tiny over there, but yeah, those two countries.
I'm going to tell New Zealand you said that. Well, I'm probably going to let them know.
I know someone there. It's tiny, okay? I mean, I know, that's how small it is. I only know one person there. That's how small that country is, okay? I've been managing online communities for 14 years, and I know one person. No, I know more than that. But yeah, Australia to me is the big one here. Although much of Australia obviously is, country. But Australia.
I also find it interesting. India and China are the two most populous nations, and they're missing.
Yeah, and India is, technology-wise, quite. At
least, I mean,
quite developed. So.
And it's a democratic nation, and but granted, they were nearly tops on the piracy watch list. So again, I just say.
Yeah, but if it's available, how has that list changed? So
I don't know. Good question. But yeah, it's
all right.
Next story. We beat that one to an unintentional pulp. This one's kind of weird. I like this story because I like it when copyright law sort of collides with other areas of the law. And interesting and holy cow, I didn't think of that ways. This is one of those stories. It deals with the legendary singer Smokey Robinson, who I found out is still alive. What do you have there?
Assume best faith, Jonathan.
Oh.
Assume life. No. I have this is super chill seltzer water, mandarin orange flavor. I went to a grocery store called Farm Fresh. Do you have those?
No.
Okay. You have, I don't know what the heck they have down there. Forget it. But it's kind of like, never mind. But they have their own seltzer brand, and I'm trying it. That's all.
Is that place that just opened?
No.
Okay.
Nope, it isn't. This is a place I went to yesterday because I had to drive about an hour to my eye exam, so I went to this different grocery store. Anyway, Smokey Robinson.
Smokey Robinson, who, yes, I found out is still alive.
He is still alive.
I know, always assume life, but you know.
So are you. You're still alive also. I confirmed this morning.
Yes, I know. You confirmed it right now, actually. No, it was interesting. For some reason, I thought I had heard he died.
Yeah, he's 74 years old.
But I mean, I knew he would have been young, but then again, he would definitely not have been the youngest musician to die. So, you know. But anyways, obviously known for a lot of songs. List My Girl, the way you do the things you do, in this article, but of course there are many others. But he was married for some 27 years, apparently, to a Claudette Robinson. And basically, they got a divorce in 1986. It seems like it's unclear from this article how amicable the divorce was, but it couldn't have been too amicable because Smokey Robinson is now seeking copyright termination on his music. Basically, copyright termination was passed in the Copyright Act of 1976, and it allows musicians like Mr. Robinson, after a certain amount of time has passed, to sort of terminate any agreements they signed over. This includes any exclusive licensing deals or any other such deals they might have signed. The idea is for someone like Smokey Robinson, who maybe wrote and signed deals back when the music was relatively valueless, they get sort of a second bite at the apple, a chance to renegotiate the terms of their agreement under more fair terms. Well, that's what's going on. However, Claudette Robinson has now filed a suit against him, saying that that those copyrights are community property, and she is owed a portion of them if he is able to successfully reclaim them through copyright termination.
Yeah.
So,
and it's
wow.
perfectly reasonable to me. 1976 Copyright Act. That, you know, we are in the year 2014. So 86, 96, 06, 16. We're 38 years removed. It's totally reasonable that someone either didn't know or wouldn't care, because who knows how long you're going to live to reach this point and not be aware of it, even at the point of their divorce.
Yeah.
86, which, again, that's just 10 of those years, 38 years. So, yeah, this is one of those cases where it's something that we haven't talked about before, which is kind of unique. I mean, I bet we've talked about divorces, and we've talked about people, you know, husbands or wives wrangling over something related to copyright. It had to have come up. But as far as these, you know, copyright reclamation stories, this is the first time this has happened, and of course, as the article notes, as Eric Gardner knows, this case has to be something that not only spouses are watching, but also potential attorneys for spouses or current attorneys of spouses are watching this, especially to see, okay, then this singer's ex-wife or ex-husband might have some sort of claim to some rights. Yeah, so I think depending on how this goes, if it's in her favor, then certainly we're going to see more of these.
Yeah, and what's interesting about it is we know under law copyright is just like any other property. I can sell you my copyright, I can lease it to you, I can rent it to you, I can do anything with my copyright that I can do with my car effectively, other than tell you to drive it. I don't think you can drive a copyright, but the point remains. It's property, and I can also...
That's why I can't steal it from you, as some people love to point out. It's not theft, Jonathan. I didn't deprive you of it. No, I'm just kidding.
We're not going down that road this episode. Maybe another time. But basically, we know it's like any other property. Legally, it functions like any other property.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, copyright does come up in divorces, in wills, and things like that. But the issue here isn't necessarily the copyright itself, it's the reclamation of that copyright and how that fits in. And that's, like you pointed out, the divorce was, what, 25 years ago now?
Yeah, 25, 26 this year, yeah.
Yeah. So it's understandable that they wouldn't think...
I'm sorry, that's not proper math. 27, turning 28 years.
No, almost 28 years ago.
There you go.
So it's perfectly understandable that the lawyers and the parties involved with the divorce wouldn't think about this. And when they were dividing up the community property, they wouldn't put this on the list. So where does it sit? Is a reclaimed copyright, even though it's decades after the divorce? Is that still community property if it was created during that time?
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer to this. This is really outside my area of expertise, but I find it incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, and this will be an interesting case. I mean, it's not like divorce cases of the 80s, 90s, or whenever have ever looked at the Copyright Act and
And I'm just going to say this.
Read through the various provisions of the Copyright Act.
And I'm just going to say this. If Claudette wins and gets some portion of the rights, Bret Michaels is screwed in about 20 years' time. Too many songs, too many ex-wives. This ought to be good. So, yeah, but it's a very interesting case. And like I said, since this deals more with family law, I don't really know much about it. But I'm definitely watching, as you said, attorneys and people that represent, all kinds of ex-spouses and spouses here.
Right.
Because there could be a lot of wives and husbands who might wake up one day realizing they actually have rights to songs they thought they lost decades ago.
Yeah, and how this could impact, I was just thinking conversely, if it's ruled against, it's treated as new property, how does that impact your current spouse? Right?
It'd be like lottery winnings almost.
If it's Smokey Robinson, I don't know if he's currently let me see, is he currently married?
Actually, I think he was still active.
No, is he currently married?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know, but let's say a hypothetical situation is, so he's no longer married to this lady, but he's married to a different lady. And he doesn't have a prenup or any agreement that dictates these terms. Again, probably unlikely, but let's just roll through the scenario. So if it's ruled that she doesn't have a claim to it, that might very well mean that the current wife would have a claim to it. So either way, it's an interesting thing because it's like old property is renewed in a way, right? It's almost a brand new property in the eyes of copyright, in the eyes of these types of cases when you're divvying up your assets. That the past isn't entitled to, but the current and the future is. So, kind of interesting.
Okay, and Smokey Robinson does appear to be married. He married again in 2004.
Okay.
To answer your question.
Why does Wikipedia usually list spouses?
Yeah, no, it usually does. I had to go into the meat of the article to find it. But he married in 2004. Yeah, you would think the Wikipedia entry on Smokey Robinson, a legendary singer and songwriter, would be a little bit lengthier than this. Just saying,
Yeah, well, no, they have like a normal template over there to the right where they usually list spouses.
Yeah, no, and then
that's lacking.
Spouses and children.
Okay. I didn't pay anything for Wikipedia, so.
Anyways, but still, for that type of quick stuff, it's usually okay. But yeah, apparently he remarried in 2004, and all indications are that he's okay. He's still married. So on that front, I gotta say, good on him. One 27-year marriage and one 10-year marriage. Yeah, it ended, but 27 years is a long time to be married, especially for a famous musician. Just saying, I'm impressed. And I've been with the same woman for 14 years now, so well. Smokey Robinson to Staten Island we transfer, and we are talking specifically about a gentleman by the name of Stephen Messina, who is being sued by the Ultimate Fighting Championship, or rather I should say, what's the company that runs it? Zufo, I think it is?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, Zufo. It sounds right.
No, it's gonna be... doesn't it end with an A? No? Maybe I'm not thinking of the right name.
I don't know.
Let me double check here.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, that is. It's. Well, maybe let me make sure I'm on the right track here. Yeah, it's. You're talking about Zuffa.
Yeah, Zuffa. Okay.
Yeah, it was founded to be the parent of the UFC. Yeah, okay, there you go. That's it.
Technically, it's Zuffa that's suing him.
Just go with UFC. That's why the article author kept it simple. UFC.
Yeah, I know. But basically suing him for some $40 million in civil damages over his alleged repeated pirating of MMA content. I mean, long story short, this guy apparently, according to UFC, was a very, very, very prolific pirate, uploading things to file sharing sites such as the Pirate Bay. Many of the things he capped himself from pay-per-view events and then shared publicly, saying that he wanted to become provider of best MMA and boxing rips online. That's a direct quote, grammar and all. So long and short, yeah, apparently he shared a lot of content because he's being hit with a $40 million lawsuit over it. And one thing I find interesting is that he even asks for donations to help his capping, if this is true. It was called MMA Capping Fund Help Me Cap PPV, pay-per-view, meaning pay-per-view. And he operated under the name Secludedly, for what it's worth. It sounds like a villain in a romance novel, but, you know.
Yeah. You know, I was looking at the comments. There's some defense of him, but I think the thing is, and you know, it's almost certain to me anyway. I mean, who knows? But the reason that this is happening is, I think first and foremost because he asked for money, and then because he uploaded. If he was just someone who was watching a pirated stream, certainly there would be no 40 million, but almost certainly as well there would be no lawsuit. So I think it's money and it's distribution, and when you do those things, then you make yourself a target. These days, for Americans at least, pirating is a crime you won't ever serve anything for, almost certainly.
Yeah.
Odds are 100% against it. It's the odds are more likely you'll be audited by the IRS. That's at 1%. The odds are
actually, it depends upon your tax bracket. In my bracket, it's 0.2%, but who's counting?
Well, I think the average was 1% from what I saw recently. 3%
for
self-employed. Self-employed was 3%, I think.
Self-employed was?
I think so, 3%. Self-employed, people who file a Schedule C are 3%. And then just regular is 1%. I mean, I'm sure they're rounding. But anyway, the point is the odds are astronomical that anything will ever happen to you, right? But when you make the leap to distribution, then it's like filing a Schedule C, okay? And when you then ask for money, it's like deliberately lying on your tax return. So I think that's what makes it bad here. That's why this guy attracted attention. And whatever his circumstances are, you just can't do that. You can't, when you try to make money from it, that's the switch we've seen flipped in so many cases, in so many lawsuits, is when you go beyond pirating, even beyond distribution, when you go and you actually accept money, whether it be what was it? There was I think an online forum where people were getting a lot of payments. I can't think of the name of it for some reason, but it was real. Trust me, that sounds very credible. And then when you have certainly the Mega Upload premium accounts, adding a lot of fuel to that fire. Whenever you make the step of taking payment for the service, that's just like it's like lying your tax return.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's interesting is that people do not want, as bad as like UFC and these other companies don't want people to watch pirated streams.
Right.
They want even less other people to make businesses off their content.
Yeah.
That is way, way, way more serious to them. And, that's kind of been the shift in focus on anti-piracy work, and I would say the last 5 to 10 years or so.
Yep.
It's been away from targeting individuals and toward cutting off the head of the Hydra. So I'm going for the head of the thing, going for the head of the operation. And the idea is you've got juicier, less sympathetic targets. You're not suing grandmas and, single moms. And most importantly, you've got money you can go after. And if you shut down the sites, you also do a great deal to discourage the individual pirates as well. So it's kind of a win-win-win. But it's always interesting to me to see how they choose to target people and why they choose to target people in these types of situations. But UFC, of course, is known for being extremely aggressive in this area.
Yeah, and UFC, as we discussed, taking a different approach in how they license their material than the WWE. WWE recently made the streaming play for $10 a month or whatever it is in that ballpark, and bundled their pay-per-view events in that streaming service. Where UFC, Dana White said that he felt they were undervaluing their content. So again, get that kind of double approach to it, but certainly going back to our Australia discussion too, UFC billing itself as a premium product will sometimes drive people to pirate. Yet they're not suffering. They drew 1.1 million television purchases. Sorry, so they just have to make that risk reward. Both business models can be successful, but the UFC will probably, from this point forward, I mean, as my I would put it as a prognosticator, to use a long word. I mean, I would predict that the UFC will have more issues with piracy for the volume of their audience than the WWE will, because of how they're choosing to, make their mediums available.
Makes sense. I guess we'll see if that actually pans out or not. Excuse me. Constantly had something stuck in my throat this podcast.
Yeah, something interesting about this next story that we'll talk about after you introduce it.
All right. Well, I'll introduce it real fast. And this is another one of those interesting to see how people are targeted type of stories to me.
Yeah.
A Belgian man, and I'll be spending a little bit of time in Belgium. It turns out I'll have a long layover in Brussels. So maybe I'll meet this Christopher R. in the Belgian airport. Not likely. But Christopher R. is being... It's kind of a weird thing. In Belgian courts, apparently there is a way to do like a hybrid lawsuit/criminal case against someone. Because there's both compensation damages and criminal penalties at stake in this case. And long and short of it is, he may owe a total of about 40,000 euros, which is about $56,000. Information I need to know on the exchange rate right there. That'll be very useful tomorrow. For illegally downloading a very large amount of content, specifically 253 movies, 64 computer games, and 22,000 audio files, all of which came from a now defunct site. Make sure I get it. Belgium-scene.be, which is the Belgium TLD.
Yeah.
So, and what's fascinating about it to me is that other people that were caught up in this case settled it for amounts between 10,000 and 25,000 euros, but Christopher R. here was unable to pay that amount, so now they're going to court and seeking the full amount, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but okay. So what are your thoughts? What's interesting?
Well, I found interesting about this is the way of calculating the supposed compensation. And more or less, with a little exception I'll talk about in a second, it's based on retail. It's we're talking about euros here, right? That's what you said? Okay, so it's €1 for an audio file, €15 for an illegally downloaded movie, and $60 for an illegally downloaded movie burned on a CD or DVD. The last one, it seems ridiculous to me. But what I thought was interesting here is they're essentially saying pay what you would pay full retail for what you downloaded. Not saying, here's 22 files and we want 150,000 per file, and so we want millions of dollars. In his case, it ends up being a high amount that a lot of people would have a problem with, $56,000 according to this article.
But he also downloaded $56,000 worth of stuff.
There you go. He downloaded, supposedly, if they can prove it, that material, and that's what he would have paid for. And I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
And there is extra damages involved here. The court is demanding 4,500 euros in additional damages as a fine on top of the compensation.
Right. Yeah, and so 37,714 euros is the amount that's being charged, and when you add up all the files, it comes back down to about $2.50 a file US. Because I did the quick math, and I think that's an interesting way to look at these cases. I think obviously the U.S. different laws. If they can go for the max, they'll go for the max. But I kind of think this is a more I don't know if I want to say common sense, but a more feasible way of getting paid when people download stuff illegally is to simply charge them retail.
Yeah,
for that. I think that's interesting, and also it's more possible. Like this guy, $56,000 is a possible amount of money to make over a period of time with a payment plan. $1 million is for most people unattainable.
Never gonna happen.
Right. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's never gonna happen. I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. No. I mean, what you were gonna say? You were gonna say something before just a moment ago.
Well, what I find interesting is there has to be a distinction. What this guy was doing supposedly is just downloading the content. He wasn't uploading, he wasn't sharing anything. There is a distinction between those two things, I believe.
Yeah, there is.
If he were the one uploading it and sharing it,
yeah,
obviously the damage structure would have to be very different.
Sure.
But since he was downloading it illegally and assumedly not sharing it again, this type of system might make a lot more sense in those cases.
Right.
I
And
agree with that.
yeah, I think that's an interesting way to look at it. And yeah, I guess that's a good point as a reminder. With those cases in the U.S., it was mostly people for uploading.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about like the Tenenbaums or Jamie Thomas Rassett, that was mostly tied to uploading.
Mm-hmm, exactly. They might have been only intending to download, but they were using BitTorrent, which ensured they were also uploading and sharing as well. So that creates sort of a double infringement thing.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be just like, the camera on your Easy Pass on your car or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You drive through, you are clocked downloading these things. Here's your bill for this month. And the whole can of worms that might open up.
Well, real fast, since I'm just realizing I accidentally added an extra story to the show notes. I didn't intend to.
Oh yeah, we do have 8. Look at that.
That was my mistake, actually.
We haven't really been very efficient with time this episode either, so that's good.
Yeah, great. We're doing great. We'll shift gears and talk about this one. I think this one's just one I want to touch on quickly.
Yeah.
Spin Master is apparently the largest toy company in Canada, I learned from this article. Fascinating.
Spin Master, when I read this, aren't they a board game company? Yeah, they make some board games. Yeah, I have a game from them called the Logo board game.
Not heard of it.
With that, it's basically like you answer questions about brands.
I would totally kick ass at this.
Okay, yeah, you should check it out then. It's fun.
Yeah, because I watch so much television. No, I probably would actually suck at it now that I haven't watched like commercial television in a long time.
Yeah, it's like, what's the name of the Cheerios B, right? Or what is that sort of thing?
I used to know that.
What does the gnome say on what is that? Travelocity? Is that the Travelocity gnome?
Yeah.
Like, what does the gnome say on the Travelocity commercial? That sort of stuff is what you get asked about. And like, what was the first
Never
flavor
Roam
of
Alone
this?
is what the gnome says.
Yeah, there you go. So things like that. I'm looking at apparently the latest one. It's got brands like Peeps, EA Sports, Airheads, Progresso, Blow Pop, ESPN, etc.
Okay, I've never played this game. But anyways, they apparently also, in addition to interesting board games about brands, they make something called the Flutterby, which are little flying fairy toys that I totally, as a 34-year-old man, do not understand.
Right.
Well, almost 34-year-old man.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Mardi Gras to me, but that's fine.
But they have sued 3 other companies, Bricks and Clicks, Recco, and CYI, going back to those interesting acronyms that are in danger of becoming something else, for copyright infringement, saying that they produced dolls that were too similar to their designs. Now, what's interesting about this is Recco, REHCO, has ongoing litigation against Spin Master, saying that Spin Master infringed their patents in the technology that makes the damn things fly. So Recco is claiming that this lawsuit is merely retaliation for the patent case. So there.
Flying fairy technology.
Yeah, who knew? I mean, from what I can see, they look like they just sit on a stand, they spin, and they're like the little things you and I grew up with. You know what I mean? You pull the string and they go up in the air. That's what it looks like. I don't know if it actually is.
Yeah. But these are fancy flying fairies.
No,
so.
I'm sure they are. I mean,
we had nothing this good.
Yeah, I'm sure they have like GPS and cell connections and all that stuff. And you know what do I got? All I have was a little plastic blade thing and a little string. That was my highest.
You had to work.
Yeah, no, we had to actually earn our flying toys.
Hand crank it, it'd fall off half the time, and then you had to put it back on and re-crank it.
And the worst is when you let it go too quickly and you'd snap your hand with a string. Did you let it recoil?
I don't know. See, mine didn't have string, but you're older than me, so.
When I was your age.
yours was before plastic mechanical connections were invented. They just had the string.
Yes. I had the string with mine. I remember I bought it, and this is true, I bought it on an ice cream truck, too.
Oh, boy, that's where all quality toys come from.
Exactly. Right next to the Scooby-Doo Pops and the firecracker, little throwing firecracker thingies. It was, like I said, a bastion of high-quality toys and nutrition. I have no idea why anyone would.
When a few pennies could buy you an experience.
Man. Well, we have a couple of quick updates we'll tear through real fast. One, as I predicted, just want to say that Quentin Tarantino has refiled the lawsuit against Gawker over the Hateful Eight script. Long story short there, the Hateful Eight is a movie that Quentin Tarantino can't decide if he is or is not working on currently, because an early draft of the script leaked online, and Gawker Media, in one of its blogs, Defamer, I believe, linked its readers directly to the file where it was stored, where it was stored on a non-file, so they could download it and view it, or at least view it. However, the initial suit was dismissed, even though there was a lot of weirdness over jurisdiction. The initial lawsuit was dismissed because Tarantino was trying to accuse Gawker of contributory copyright infringement, but apparently in the initial lawsuit failed to state what he considered to be the direct copyright infringement. With no direct copyright infringement, there could be no contributory copyright infringement. Ergo, the lawsuit was dismissed. Well, he's refiled it now, and he's made it painfully clear what he thinks the direct infringement is. And what he says, and I will just read from it real fast, is anyone who sought to read or obtain the screenplay from the screenplay download URL necessarily had to first download a PDF copy of the work onto their own computer. There you go.
Yeah.
That's saying that is a direct infringement of the copyright in that script. There you go. And I guess we'll see if the court accepts that, and if it does, if the lawsuit's now able to move forward. But I loved how the media, when it was initially dismissed, was like, Tarantino's lawsuit's tossed, major victory for journalism. I'm like, it was tossed on a very bad technicality, and it's about to get recorded.
Yeah, and they say here, they argue that Gawker publicly solicited its 47 million monthly U.S. readers to infringe Tarantino's copyright, asking and inducing anyone to leak and provide Gawker with an unauthorized, infringing copy of the screenplay. So that made me go back and look at the articles on Gawker, because they're still up and I assume unedited, because what he says here is still present in these articles. First of all, I think the argument that you download it to write about it and that's infringement is terrible, I think. Terrible in many ways. As a writer, I wouldn't want that to apply. No. As a citizen of the United States, I wouldn't want that to apply to my journalists. I think that's just, like we talked about, when something leaks, when I Badway blog, for example, I would write about it because it was news. I wouldn't link to it. I wouldn't say go here. And that's what Gawker did. And, you know, Gawker probably gets away with this. But that doesn't mean that and it's Gawker, so I don't know what high standards anyone would be expecting anyway. But there's no doubt that there's a little bit of a little lack of ethics here in this story, and Gawker's done these things before. But specifically two stories. One is titled "Quentin Tarantino Throws Temper Tantrum After Script Leak," and they end it with. In the meantime, if anyone would like to name names or leak the script to us, please do so at tips@defamer.com. So there's no doubt they solicited for the script. If they're entitled to is another question, but that's, I mean, generally speaking, professional journalists, I don't know, don't do that in the articles that they're writing. And then the other part was linked to it in his complaint. They mentioned that they linked here and here. In other words, here's a sentence. This item, a document that a script has been made public online here and here, and links go to anonfiles.com and Scribd, both of which have been pulled. And this story titled "Here is the leaked, hateful script." Yeah, there's multiple links. Why do you have mirrors? Because you expect to be down. So there's no doubt here with certain. And the feeling that that'll close in some cases, but it still largely exists, I think. And Gawker, and I'm not sure that they ever really did, but there's no doubt in my mind that they did something. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I personally agree with you that Gawker overstepped lines. I know, and when I was in journalism school, this was the type of thing we were taught not to do,
right,
for ethical and legal reasons. But, whether or not they can actually be held accountable for it, that's what this lawsuit's
Right.
for, and so I guess we'll find out.
They won't be, based on this argument. I don't think so anyway, but we'll see.
You don't? You don't think this argument's a winner?
Do you?
I am skeptical, but at least it's an attempt to vet out a direct infringement.
Right. But I'm not sure I want it to be a winner,
Yeah.
Just the way he phrased it, I think it's too dangerous. If you download something to report on it, that is infringement.
Well,
no.
he's also commenting on all the visitors who downloaded it to view it.
Right.
I think his argument, it seems to be, deals more with that through linking to it, they were contributing to the direct infringement of their readers. And so that, I think, may be his argument.
I'm okay with them receiving something for linking to it. I'm not okay with them receiving something,
I agree with that.
downloading it to report on it.
No, reporters have always gotten special, sort of, I don't want to say a pass, but have always been treated differently than the general public on these matters.
Yeah, I mean, when he mentions in the complaint, for example, Gawker itself illegally downloaded to its computer an unauthorized infringing PDF copy of the screenplay, read it, and learned the PDF document was 146 pages, directly infringing Tarantino's copyright by doing that act. That's the part of he loses me on. But if they can get him on contributing, go for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping succeeds, and I still think it's dubious, but we'll see what happens. Well, Kim.com is heading, talking about him again, he's heading back to the New Zealand Supreme Court over the issue of warrants. Remember, he had his mansion raided in January 2012. God, we've been talking about this forever. His mansion was raided, Mega Upload was shuttered, blah, 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 big story at the time. But there was a lot of confusion about whether or not the warrants used to basically enable the raid, to set up the raid, were valid. There were some issues with them, and a lower court basically ruled that they were invalid warrants, that they had no rights to go in and seize his property, they had no rights to arrest him. Basically, the whole operation was unlawful. The appeals court, however, said, look, there are issues, but they are still fundamentally, acceptable warrants. Well, Kim.com has been given leave to appeal again, and the New Zealand Supreme Court is taking it on, and we will see what they say soon enough. They are scheduled to hear it June 11th and 12th. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I have nothing to say on this story.
Yeah,
I was just laughing because he included a video on his tweet that, I have to give credit, it's funny. He has a video about the raid. It's actually posted June of 2013. You may have seen it. But the ending has an alternate ending to the raid, which is him, and it's just a brief clip from Scarface.
Mm-hmm.
And it's "Say Hello to My Little Friend," but it's his face over it, and it's synced in perfectly with the audio.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I laughed. I found it funny, which, not to say that I agree with his general position on things, but yeah, that's my only commentary. Next.
Yeah. He does have a very peculiar sense of humor.
Yeah.
There's not much doubt about that. Well, our final story, now that we have 8, is one that I found particularly interesting. It popped up in my feeds, and I ended up reading quite a good deal about it, but it centers on a man named Rodriguez. That's his stage name. His full name is Sixto Rodriguez. It deals with him because he was something of a singer, songwriter, and rock musician from the late 60s, early 70s, who, to be frank, did not reach much commercial success in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Put out a few albums, didn't really go anywhere. Happens to a lot of musicians, right? Went on, found another career, did other things with his life. That was the end of it. Turns out, however, his music was really popular in South Africa. Not sure why, not sure how, it just sort of happened, So he ended up being really, really popular in South Africa for decades without actually, learning about it.
Mm-hmm.
Until documentarians working on the movie Searching for Sugar Man found him and sort of broke the news to him that, hey, you've sold 500,000 odd records in South Africa and people love you.
Yeah.
You might want to do something about that 40 years after the fact.
I'm sure the money was kept in a trust.
Exactly. But that raises
just like the Authors Guild wanted to do with the orphan works. I'm sure it was kept in a trust for 80 years or 40 years.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly the interesting question is okay, he sold a ridiculous amount of albums in South Africa. Where's his cut? You know? He went off doing other things. It's not clear in this article what he was, doing. But assumedly not being a musician or not being a wildly successful one for certain. So yeah, what did he do? Where did this money go? What happened to it? No idea. However, the people who originally signed him, have filed a lawsuit against some of the others involved, seeking those royalties, and it will be interesting to see how this pans out and what happens to it. I just want to know where the breakdown happened here, and
as soon as someone's found, the companies just dive in for their money.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's like,
we finally ID'd the guy. Oh, we own him. Okay, we got it.
Yeah, we signed him. He's ours.
Boy.
Yeah, so yeah, that's basically what's happening here. They're jumping in trying to get their money, and here we go. And I gotta say this, I was happy to see this. Rodriguez himself is apparently doing pretty well for himself right now. He's touring South Africa. He's selling thousands of new reissued albums. So he's actually able to exploit his fame from 40 years ago pretty well. And is actually probably doing pretty good with it.
So are those reissued albums all ironed out?
I don't know.
Legally, who's claiming what on this?
I don't know. That's another good question.
Huh.
I mean, it's really interesting because who did he reclaim the rights? Is that possible? I mean, he could have copyright termination. He wrote these songs
in the early 70s. How does that affect South Africa?
Would he have thought to do it? Would he have thought it was worth it?
Right. And how does that affect South Africa?
Yeah, exactly. Good point too. Lots of interesting questions there. Yeah, long and short of it is he's like I said, he's enjoying his newfound fame. He seems to be doing his thing. That warms my heart a little bit. But yeah, what happened to all the money remains a pretty valid question. So this will be interesting. But it's just fascinating to think that these documentarians found the guy, let him know, oh, by the way, you are a huge star in South Africa. Just thought you should know. And it wouldn't have been hilarious if he had went to like South Africa on a vacation, just like randomly one time, like, hey, Johannesburg sounds great. They got lovely weather. It's winter here. It's summer there. Let's go. Like a little holiday. And everyone's like all on him about how famous he is, and he doesn't understand why.
Yeah, that would have been funny. I guess it didn't happen that way, unfortunately, but it would have been good for a movie.
But the other thing is, a lot of people talk about the way in which artists are often mistreated by record labels and by the music industry.
Right.
I've got a feeling this is going to become one of the poster child cases of that, even though I find it interesting that all this happened before the Copyright Act in 1976. Yeah. And I think that's probably in large part because the Copyright Act in 1976 was where copyright termination. In fact, all this happened before the federalization of sound recording copyrights, too. That was 1972.
And the thing here also is, what the heck? I'm looking at the album cover in South Africa, supposedly, and it says Rodriguez on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone had to issue this, right?
Yeah.
Someone had to issue 500,000 of these, right? So, where is that person? And why? And I mean, because who took the money in? Like, it's just so weird. Like, how? Of course, there's a lot of shady people out there, right? Like you said, this could become one of those stories. Took the album, went to South Africa, sold 500,000, gone now, maybe dead, whoever that is.
He bought a Caribbean island, and that was the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that money went somewhere. Of course, it's gone now. Almost certainly it's gone. Who knows? Maybe it's not. But yeah, someone had to issue this. Someone had to take his music. Someone had to put it out there. So was that the label? Was it someone else? Like, what happened? Was this just for South Africa? Was it international sales? Did he get any money from international sales outside the U.S.? Like, what? That's kind of an odd thing here for me, is because it's not like it was released under a pseudonym, right? A pseudonym or some fake name, or like Stephen King writing under a different name. This was Rodriguez. It says it right on it, supposedly. He wasn't known as Sugar Man. That was a song that was a hit. Yeah. But the album was Cold Fact, released by Rodriguez. His picture's on the front of it. So, I don't. That's really a weird part of the story is that someone sold this and just kept the money supposedly.
That's one of the things I do find interesting about it, is it doesn't look like anything intentionally shady happened.
Except they didn't.
Other than there is some issues with the songwriter name being changed.
Right. Okay. There you go. That's right. That's the story.
That's one element of it.
Yep.
Because they changed it to be a Jesus Rodriguez. It was supposedly his brother, which doesn't exist, from what I understand. So that's one element of it. There's definitely some shady things. But it's like you said, this looks like an official CD. It looks like an official release.
Yeah, and this website, sugarman.org, which labels itself as the official Rodriguez website and says it has the blessing of him and his family. I can't vouch for that, so take it what it is. But it lists vinyl releases for South Africa released by A&M in 1971, released by United Artists in 1974. It's got the item numbers on it, except the vinyl number. Releases in Australia and New Zealand and other countries. Cassette in South Africa, released by A&M in 1973. CD in Australia, CD in South Africa. It's got the label supposedly issuing it. We'll never find out. These documents are probably gone, buried, burnt, thrown away, shredded, whatever. But yeah, it's just a weird case. If he never saw any of the money and he never picked it up through his brother, purported brother, yeah, I mean, what happens? It's like if someone took my book and sold it in South Africa, and I didn't see any money and didn't know about it. It's so weird.
It is very weird, and it's like I said, this happened before the federalization of sound recordings. This didn't even happen under federal copyright law in the U.S.
Yeah.
Before the Copyright Act of 1976, which is what brought copyright termination into play. So this was a very different day and age for musicians,
Yeah.
than 2014 is.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting case. So I guess we'll follow it and see what happens.
Yes, sir.
Well, we ran a little long. That's my fault because I added 8 stories on accident because I forgot to count, apparently. But do you have any final thoughts? Anything else you want to say?
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. Good one.
All the mothers out there who are listening to our show.
Hi, Mom, if you're listening.
And safe travels, Jonathan.
Thank you. On that note, just to repeat, we will not be recording next week, but we will be back to the usual schedule. We'll be back a day late the week after. We pushed it back to Thursday so I could recuperate. But on that note, everyone, my name is Jonathan Bailey. I am from the website Plagiarism Today, which can be found at plagiarismtoday.com. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, everywhere else as username Plagiarism Today.
And I'm Patrick O'Keefe for the After Hockey Network. I blog at managingcommunities.com and patrickokeefe.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn as Patrick O'Keefe.
On that note, everyone, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you guys next week.